The Korean Mafia boss invited her home for Christmas. She didn't expect what happened next. The envelope sits on my desk like a time bomb. Heavy white paper, my name written in elegant Hangul. Inside, an invitation that feels like a death sentence. Join me for Christmas at my family home. It's not a request. Men like Jae-hoon Kim don't make requests. They issue commands and expect compliance. How did I get here? For months translating documents at what I thought was a legitimate export company, and now I know too much. Now I'm trapped between the devil and the deep blue sea. And the devil wants me home for Christmas. If you've ever wondered what happens when the line between fear and desire blurs beyond recognition, stay with me. This is my story. This is how I fell into the abyss. I never wanted this life. Never asked to catch the eye of soul's most dangerous man. I was just trying to survive in a foreign country, pay off my student loans, build something resembling a future. Now my future hangs by a thread, dangling from the manicured fingers of a man who could end my existence with a single nod. The invitation burns in my hand. I should run. Any sane person would flee the country, change their name, disappear. But there's nowhere to hide from the Kim family. Their tentacles reach across continents. And running would only confirm what they already suspect, that I know exactly what kind of documents I've been translating. So I pack a small bag. Black dress, sensible shoes, a phone that's probably already tapped. I wear my hair down the way he once mentioned he liked it. Survival means playing the game, and I'm just trying to stay alive long enough to find an exit strategy. The car arrives precisely at 7 p.m. Black Maybach, windows tinted beyond what's legal. The driver doesn't speak, doesn't even look at me. I sit in the back seat, my heart hammering against my ribs so loudly I'm certain he can hear it through the partition. We leave Seoul behind, the neon lights fading as we climb into mountains I don't recognize. No GPS on my phone. No landmarks I can use to orient myself. Just darkness and the growing certainty that I've made a terrible mistake. I hate how my body betrays me when I think of him. Hate the heat that floods my cheeks, the quickening of my pulse that has nothing to do with fear. Jae-hoon Kim, 34 years old, built like he was carved from stone. A face that belongs in museums, all sharp angles and cold perfection. Eyes that see through every lie I've ever told myself. I hate him for what he is. Hate myself more for what I feel. The estate appears suddenly, rising from the mountainside like a fortress. Traditional Korean architecture blended with modern security. High walls topped with discreet cameras. Guards who don't bother concealing their weapons. This is no home. It's a compound, a fortress, a prison with silk sheets and heated floors. The car stops. Nobody opens my door. I'm expected to walk into hell of my own accord. He waits at the entrance, silhouetted against warm light. Broader than I remembered. More imposing. His tailored suit does nothing to disguise the power in his shoulders, the lethal grace in his stance. This man has killed people. I know this with bone-deep certainty. The same hands that signed my employment contract have ended lives. You came. His voice is lower than it is at the office, rougher around the edges. His English perfect but accented. I hate how it slides down my spine, how it makes me want to lean toward him instead of running away. I don't trust myself to speak. Just nod, clutching my overnight bag like it might shield me from whatever comes next. His eyes drop to my white-knuckled grip, and something that might be amusement crosses his face. Not a smile. I've never seen him smile, but a softening around his eyes. You think I invited you here to hurt you? Not a question. A statement of fact that hangs between us. You think you know what I am. I do know. For months of translating shipping manifests that don't match customs declarations. Property deeds for buildings where fires conveniently erupt. Contracts with clauses that amount to indentured servitude. I know exactly what he is. But I don't know why I'm here. Why me, with my community college degree and my second-hand clothes? Why not one of the sleek Korean women who work in his legitimate businesses, who understand the world he inhabits? He leads me inside, his hand not touching me but hovering near the small of my back. a phantom pressure that makes my skin prickle through my coat. The house is a study in contradictions. Traditional elements, low tables, rice paper screens, celadon pottery in alcoves, mixed with cutting-edge technology and luxury. Everything pristine, everything perfect, everything dangerous. The first thing I notice is the absence of Christmas decorations. No tree, no lights, no concession to the holiday mentioned in his invitation. The second thing I notice is the silence. A house this size should have staff, movement, life. Instead, it feels like a museum after hours. Preserved, protected, empty of everything but ghosts. The others will join us for dinner. He doesn't specify who the others are. I imagine more men like him, hard-eyed, hard-bodied enforcers with concealed weapons and unconcealed disdain for an American translator who doesn't belong in their world. He shows me to my room personally. No staff, no assistants. Just him, leading me down corridors that seem designed to disorient. The room itself is traditional. Tatami mats, futon instead of a Western bed, sliding doors made of rice paper and dark wood. Beautiful, austere, a gilded cell. 1 hour, he says, leaving me at the threshold. Not an explanation, just another command. 1 hour to what? Prepare myself? Pray? Plot an escape through windows I already know will be locked. Alone, I finally exhale. My bag drops to the floor, and with it, the last of my composure. My hands shake as I splash cold water on my face from a porcelain basin that probably costs more than my monthly rent. The mirror shows me a stranger. Too pale, eyes too wide, fear written in every line of my face. What am I doing here? What does he want from me? I've heard whispers about the Kim family's business practices, about rivals who disappear, about politicians who suddenly change their votes after private meetings. But I've also seen Jae-hoon with his grandmother, his voice softening when he speaks to her, his hand gentle on her frail shoulder. I've seen him stop his convoy to let a stray dog cross the road. I've seen contradictions that make it impossible to put him in a simple box labeled villain. That's what terrifies me most. Not the certainty of danger, but the doubt. The possibility that there's something in him worth saving. Something in him that saw something in me. 1 hour passes like a death sentence counting down. I change into the black dress, apply minimal makeup, twist my hair up, then remember his preference and let it fall again. Hating myself for this small capitulation. Hating him more for making me care what he thinks. I find my way back to the main room through trial and error, through corridors that all look the same, past doors I don't dare open. The house feels like a labyrinth designed to trap unwary visitors. By the time I reach the central living area, my palms are sweating and my heart is racing. They're waiting for me, not the army of enforcers I imagined, but a smaller, more intimate group. 5 men besides Jae-hoon, all in dark suits, all with the same watchful stillness that speaks of violence held in careful check. And 1 woman, ancient, tiny, dressed in a traditional hanbok, her white hair pulled back severely from a face mapped with wrinkles. Jae-hoon's grandmother. I recognize her from photos in his office. The family matriarch. The woman who raised him after his parents were killed in what the newspapers called a car accident, but office gossip attributed to a rival organization. Her eyes find me immediately, sharp and assessing despite her age. She says something in rapid-fire Korean that makes the men shift uncomfortably. All except Jae-hoon, who responds with calm deference, his gaze never leaving my face. "My grandmother welcomes you," he translates, though I suspect what she said was far more complicated. She says it's about time I brought someone home. Brought someone home. Like I'm a stray cat he found in an alley, not a prisoner being held in a gilded cage. The other men watch me with expressions ranging from curiosity to open hostility. They don't introduce themselves, and Jae-hoon doesn't offer introductions. I know their faces from company files, know their roles in the organization. The accountant who launders money through shell corporations. The former special forces officer who handles security. The lawyer who finds loopholes in international law. The cousin who manages the gambling operations. the childhood friend who oversees territories in Busan. I am standing in a room with the leadership of one of Korea's most powerful criminal organizations, and I'm expected to make small talk over dinner. The meal is served in a formal dining room with a view of mountains silhouetted against the night sky. Traditional Korean dishes presented on handmade pottery. No one speaks as servers bring course after course, their eyes carefully averted, their movements precise and practiced. I eat mechanically, tasting nothing, aware of Jae-hoon's gaze on me throughout the meal. The grandmother speaks occasionally, always in Korean, always looking at me as though I might understand through sheer force of will. Jae-hoon translates selectively, filtering her words through some internal process I can't begin to comprehend. She asks if you're comfortable. She wants to know if you enjoy Korean food. She says your hair is beautiful. I respond with careful politeness, aware that every word is being weighed and measured by 6 pairs of calculating eyes. The other men rarely speak, and when they do, it's to Jae-hoon, not to me. I am a curiosity, an anomaly, a potential weakness in their armor. After dinner, the grandmother retires, escorted by the youngest of the men. The others remain, and the atmosphere shifts subtly. Business, not pleasure. They speak in rapid Korean, occasionally glancing my way when certain topics arise. I pretend not to understand the fragments I catch, numbers, locations, names I've seen in documents. I pretend my heart isn't pounding with the knowledge that I'm witnessing something I shouldn't. Jae-hoon notices. Of course he notices. Those eyes miss nothing. He dismisses the others with a gesture that brooks no argument, and suddenly we're alone in a room too large for 2 people, the silence between us heavy with unspoken questions. You understand more than you pretend to. His voice is neutral, but the accusation lands like a slap. How much Korean do you actually know? Not enough to save myself. Too much to claim ignorance. I settle for a half-truth. I've been learning. It seemed prudent. Prudent. He repeats the word, rolling it around like he's tasting it. Yes, you are nothing if not prudent, Mila. Careful. Observant. Too observant, perhaps. There it is, the threat lurking beneath the surface hospitality. The reminder that I know too much, have seen too much. That my continued existence depends entirely on his whim. Why am I here? I finally ask, my voice steadier than I feel. Why invite me to your home? Why introduce me to your family, to your... I hesitate, not wanting to say criminal associates out loud. My colleagues? He supplies, with that not-quite smile that never reaches his eyes. Why do you think? Because I'm a loose end. Because it's easier to make someone disappear from a remote mountain compound than from a sole apartment building with witnesses and security cameras. Because Christmas is as good a time as any to tie up loose ends. But none of that explains the grandmother, the formal dinner, the private room with its expensive furnishings. None of that explains the way he's looking at me now, like I'm a puzzle he's trying to solve. I don't know, I admit, hating the vulnerability in my voice. I don't understand any of this. He steps closer, and it takes everything in me not to back away. He smells expensive. Sandalwood and something darker, something uniquely him. His proximity scrambles my thoughts, makes it hard to remember why I should be afraid. You translate documents, he says, his voice low and intimate. But have you considered that documents aren't the only things that need translating? That sometimes people need translating too. I don't understand what he means, and my confusion must show on my face because he continues. I brought you here because you see things others don't. You notice details. You read between lines. And I need someone who can do that right now. It's not what I expected. Not a confession of secret desire, not a death threat, just a job offer? Something about this doesn't add up, doesn't make sense with what I know about him, about his organization. What exactly are you asking me to do? His eyes hold mine, and for the first time, I see something like uncertainty in them. I'm asking you to watch. Listen. Tell me what you see, who you trust, who you don't. I'm asking you to be my eyes when mine are too clouded by history to see clearly. Before I can respond, a commotion erupts from elsewhere in the house. Raised voices, hurried footsteps. Jae-hoon's posture changes instantly, tension radiating from every line of his body. He's moving toward the door before I can blink, issuing rapid commands in Korean to someone in the hallway. He pauses at the threshold, looks back at me with an expression I can't interpret. Stay here. Don't leave this room until I come for you. Then he's gone, and I'm alone with the cooling tea and the growing certainty that I've stepped into something far more complicated than a simple invitation to Christmas dinner. I don't stay in the room. Of course I don't. The moment the sounds of footsteps fade, I'm at the door, then in the hallway, following the echoes of urgent conversation to their source. I tell myself it's self-preservation, that I need to know what's happening to assess my own danger. But beneath that lies a more uncomfortable truth. I'm worried about him, about what that shouting means, about why his face went so blank, so cold when he heard it. I find them in what must be his office, a modern space incongruous with the traditional architecture of the rest of the house. Glass desk, state-of-the-art computers, wall-mounted screens displaying security camera feeds from multiple locations. Jae-hoon stands with his back to the door, facing 3 of his men. The tension in the room is palpable, a living thing with teeth and claws. They're speaking Korean too fast for me to follow completely, but I catch enough. A shipment intercepted. Someone talking to prosecutors. A leak somewhere in the organization. Accusations flying, fingers pointing, voices rising. Jae-hoon is the only one not shouting. His voice deadly calm in a way that's more frightening than anger. I must make some sound. A gasp, a step too heavy, because suddenly they all turn, and I'm pinned by 4 pairs of eyes. One of the men reaches inside his jacket, and I know with sickening certainty that he's going for a weapon. Jae-hoon stops him with a word sharp, commanding. Then he's crossing to me, his face a mask of controlled fury. I brace for violence, for punishment, but his touch when it comes is surprisingly gentle as he takes my elbow and steers me away from the door. I told you to stay in the room. His voice is tight, controlled, but beneath it I hear something else. Concern? Fear? Not for himself. I can't imagine this man fearing anything. But for me, I heard shouting. I say lamely, as if that explains my disobedience. I thought. You thought what? That you would investigate? Insert yourself into a dangerous situation. His fingers tighten slightly on my arm, then release as if he's forcing himself to be gentle. Do you have any idea what could have happened if you'd walked in on anyone but me? I do. I've translated enough documents to know exactly what happens to people who see things they shouldn't, who know things they shouldn't. My mouth goes dry, my pulse hammering in my throat. I'm sorry, I whisper. Though sorry doesn't begin to cover the magnitude of my stupidity. He studies my face for a long moment, then sighs, a sound so human, so weary that it catches me off guard. You're not safe here tonight, not with this happening. I need to get you away from the compound. Not safe. The words should terrify me, but instead, a strange calm descends. This at least is honest. This is the danger I've been anticipating since the invitation arrived. Better a known threat than the uncertain limbo I've been suspended in. Where will you take me? To some secondary location where my disappearance won't be connected to him? To a quiet place where bodies can be disposed of without witnesses. His jaw tightens, and I realize he's read the fear in my question. Somewhere safe. Somewhere only I know about. He hesitates, then adds, I won't hurt you, Mila. Whatever you think of me, whatever you believe I've done, I have never harmed someone under my protection. And right now, you are under my protection. I want to laugh at the absurdity of it. The criminal protector. The dangerous savior. But there's something in his eyes that stops the bitter sound in my throat. Something raw and honest that I haven't seen before. Why? I ask, the question encompassing everything. Why protect me? Why bring me here? Why care what happens to one insignificant translator who knows too much? He doesn't answer directly, just says, pack your things. We leave in 5 minutes. 5 minutes to gather my barely unpacked belongings. 5 minutes to decide if I trust this man enough to go anywhere with him alone. 5 minutes to contemplate the alternative. Staying in a house full of angry, armed men who see me as a liability. In the end, it's no choice at all. I follow him to a garage housing a collection of vehicles that would make a luxury car dealer weep. He bypasses the ostentatious sports cars, the armored SUVs, selecting instead an unremarkable sedan with tinted windows. Practical. Anonymous. A car no one would look twice at. He drives himself, no chauffeur, no security detail. Another departure from the carefully controlled existence I've glimpsed. We leave through a side gate, avoiding the main entrance with its guards and cameras. He drives with the same intensity he brings to everything. Hands precise on the wheel, eyes constantly checking mirrors, routes seemingly random to avoid any possibility of being followed. I should be terrified. I'm alone in a car with a man I know to be dangerous, heading to an unknown location. My phone left behind at his instruction. They can track it, he said, offering no explanation of who they might be. I should be planning my escape, watching for police stations or populated areas where I could run, scream, attract attention. Instead, I find myself studying his profile in the dim light of the dashboard. The sharp line of his jaw, the slight furrow between his brows as he concentrates on the road. He looks younger away from the office, away from his men. More human somehow. There's a war coming, he says abruptly, breaking the silence that has stretched between us. Within the organization, lines being drawn, loyalties being tested. His eyes flick to me briefly before returning. To the road. That's why I brought you to the compound. I needed to see who would object. Who would see you as a threat. I don't understand. But I'm beginning to. The formal dinner. The introduction to key members of his organization. The grandmother's approval. I wasn't just a guest. I was a litmus test. My father built this organization. He continues, his voice detached, almost clinical. My uncle maintained it after his death. Now my uncle is dying and there are disagreements about succession, about the future direction of our interests. Our interests, such a bland term for what I know those interests to include. Protection rackets, gambling, smuggling, probably worse that I haven't seen documented. And where do I fit into these succession plans? I ask, my voice steadier than I feel. He's quiet for so long I think he might not answer. When he does, his words steal the breath from my lungs. You're my weakness. Or at least that's what they think. His knuckles whiten on the steering wheel. A foreign woman. An unknown quantity. Someone who could compromise me, distract me at a critical moment. My weakness. The implications of that simple phrase cascade through me like falling dominoes. He cares for me. In some capacity, in some way I haven't allowed myself to acknowledge, this dangerous man harbors feelings for me that extend beyond employer and employee. And those feelings have put me in danger. And what do you think? I ask, barely breathing. His eyes meet mine for a heartbeat, dark and unreadable in the dim car. I think you're the only clear-eyed person in a room full of blind loyalties and ancient grudges. I think you see me, not the reputation, not the position, but me. And I think that makes you not a weakness, but the only advantage I have right now. We drive for what feels like hours, the landscape changing from mountains to forest, the roads narrowing, civilization falling away behind us. Eventually, we turn onto a barely visible track that winds through dense trees. No streetlights here, no signs of human habitation. Just wilderness and the growing knot of anxiety in my stomach. The cabin appears suddenly small, traditional, but with modern touches visible even in the darkness. Solar panels on the roof. Satellite dish discreetly mounted. Windows with the telltale thickness of bulletproof glass. My grandfather built this place, Jaehoon says as he kills the engine. Before the family business expanded, before Seoul, before everything. No one knows about it except me. Not even my grandmother. A secret refuge. A bolt hole. The kind of place a man like him would keep for emergencies, for when he needs to disappear. And he's brought me here. I'm not sure if that's meant to reassure me or terrify me further. The interior is spartanly furnished but comfortable. Wood floors, minimalist furniture, a stone fireplace that dominates one wall. It smells of cedar and pine, of mountains and isolation. Jae-hoon moves through the space with familiar efficiency, checking security systems, starting a fire, setting out supplies he's apparently stored here for just such occasions. I stand awkwardly in the center of the main room, still wearing my black dress, still clutching my overnight bag, still trying to process everything that's happened since that envelope appeared on my desk. "You should rest," he says, not looking at me as he arranges logs in the fireplace. "There's a bedroom through that door. Bathroom attached. Everything you need should be there. Everything except answers. Everything except certainty. Everything except some assurance that I'm not making the biggest mistake of my life by being here with him." "And where will you sleep?" I ask, hating how small my voice sounds. Now he does look up, those dark eyes reflecting the growing flames. "I won't. Not tonight. Someone needs to keep watch." Keep watch? Against what? Against whom? The questions pile up in my throat, too numerous and tangled to voice. Instead, I retreat to the offered bedroom, closing the door between us with a soft click that feels strangely final. The room is like the rest of the cabin, simple, functional, beautiful in an understated way. The bed is Western style, piled with blankets against the mountain cold. The bathroom has modern fixtures despite the rustic setting. Someone has thought of everything: toiletries, towels, even a robe hanging on the back of the door. I shower mechanically, letting hot water sluice away the tension of the day, trying not to think about what happens next. When I emerge, wrapped in the too large robe that must be his, the exhaustion hits me like a physical force. I barely make it to the bed before collapsing, sleep claiming me despite the churning anxiety, despite the strangeness of my surroundings. I dream of dark eyes and gentle hands and danger lurking just out of sight. Morning comes with pale light filtering through wooden shutters and the scent of coffee drifting under the door. For a moment, disorientation grips me. Unfamiliar room, unfamiliar bed. Then memory returns in a rush. The compound, the argument, the hasty flight to this hidden cabin. I dress quickly in clothes from my bag, grateful now for the practicality that made me pack jeans and sweaters instead of just the black dress. When I emerge from the bedroom, I find Jae-hoon at a small kitchen table, his attention focused on a laptop. He looks like he hasn't slept. Shadows under his eyes, stubble darkening his jaw, yesterday's dress shirt wrinkled and rolled up at the sleeves. He glances up at my approach, and something in his expression shifts, softens almost imperceptibly. "There's coffee," he says, nodding toward a pot on the counter. "Food in the refrigerator. Nothing fancy, but it will keep us going." Such a small word to encompass whatever this is between us. Not quite captive and captor. Not quite colleagues. Certainly not lovers, despite the undercurrent of tension that has haunted our every interaction. I pour coffee, find bread and fruit, join him at the table with careful movements, like approaching a wild animal that might bolt if startled. "Have you heard anything?" I ask, not specifying from whom or about what. We both know the parameters of our situation. He closes the laptop, giving me his full attention. Nothing conclusive. The organization is in flux, waiting to see which way the wind blows. His mouth twists slightly. My absence will be noted, interpreted, used. They'll think you've run away? The idea seems ludicrous. This man, running from anything or anyone. They'll think I've made my move prematurely, shown my hand before all the pieces are in place. He sips his coffee, eyes never leaving mine. Some will see it as weakness, others as strategy. And which is it? I dare to ask. That ghost of a smile, there and gone too quickly to be sure I saw it. Neither. Both. It's. He hesitates, searching for words, which seems unlike him. It's protecting what matters while I still can. What matters? The phrase hangs between us, laden with implications I'm not ready to examine. I focus instead on the practical. How long do we stay here? Until I know it's safe to return. until I've consolidated my position. His tone suggests this is a process measured in days, not hours. I have resources, loyal people. This isn't the first power struggle I've navigated. But it might be the last, his expression seems to say. The stakes feel different this time, higher somehow. And I'm caught in the middle of it all, a translator who stumbled into a war zone. Why me? The question escapes before I can stop it. Raw and honest in the morning light. Of all the people in your organization, why bring me into this? Why risk everything for? I gesture vaguely at myself, unable to articulate what exactly he might be risking everything for. He's silent for a long moment, his face unreadable. Then he stands abruptly, moving to the window, presenting his back to me as he speaks. Because you have no allegiances except to yourself. No history with the family. No agenda except survival. He pauses, shoulders tense beneath his shirt. And because when you look at me, you see Jae-hoon, not the Kim family heir. Do you have any idea how rare that is in my life? The confession catches me off guard. Its honesty like a physical blow. I've spent months translating documents, learning the shape of his organization, understanding the power he wields. But this glimpse of the man beneath the power, this is new territory. I see a man who could kill me without consequences. I say, my voice steadier than I feel. A man involved in things I can't even bring myself to name out loud. A man who terrifies me. I take a breath, forcing myself to finish. And yes, a man who treats his grandmother with gentleness I didn't expect. Who stops for stray dogs. Who seems to want something more than what he inherited. He turns back to me, and the expression on his face steals my breath. Hunger, yes, but more complex than simple desire. Recognition. Relief. The look of a drowning man who's finally found something solid to cling to. That's why, he says simply. That's why it had to be you. The day passes in a strange limbo. Jae-hoon alternates between tense phone calls in Korean, rapid-fire typing on his laptop, and periods of stillness where he stares out the window at the surrounding forest, lost in thought. I occupy myself with books from the cabin's small collection, with exploratory walks around the immediate grounds, always careful to stay within sight of the windows. We orbit each other like binary stars, neither able to break free of the other's gravity, neither willing to risk coming too close. It's during dinner, a simple meal I've prepared from the cabin's well-stocked pantry, that the careful distance between us finally collapses. We're eating in near silence, the crackle of the fire the only sound, when his phone rings. The conversation is brief, his response is monosyllabic, but I can read the tension in his body, the way his jaw tightens with each word. When he sets the phone down, his expression has hardened into something dangerous. My uncle is dead, he says flatly. Apparently his condition deteriorated suddenly this afternoon. I'm sorry, I offer automatically, though I'm not sure if it's a loss he feels or merely a complication in his plans. Don't be. His death was inevitable. He pushes his plate away, food barely touched. The timing, however, is suspicious. Too convenient for certain factions who weren't prepared for my succession. You think he was helped along? The euphemism feels ridiculous in the face of what we're really discussing. Murder, assassination, power grabbed through violence. I know he was. No uncertainty, no hesitation, just cold certainty. Just as I know they'll be coming for me next, for anyone they perceive as loyal to me. His eyes meet mine across the table. For you, the fear I've been holding at bay surges back. Ice water in my veins. Me? I'm nothing to them. Just a translator. Disposable. You're with me, he says, as if that explains everything. And perhaps it does. In his world, loyalty is everything. Allegiance is everything. And by following him to this cabin, by staying when I could have tried to run, I've declared my allegiance as clearly as if I'd sworn an oath. What happens now? My voice sounds distant to my own ears, detached from the fear clawing at my insides. He stands, restless energy radiating from him like heat. Now I move before they expect it. consolidate power, eliminate threats. The words are cold, clinical, at odds with the emotion burning in his eyes. But first, I get you somewhere truly safe. Somewhere not even my own people know about. Another cabin in the woods? I can't keep the bitterness from my voice. Another temporary shelter. Another pause before the inevitable confrontation. No. He comes around the table, kneels beside my chair so we're eye to eye, his proximity making my heart stutter. A way out. Clean break. New identity. New country. New life. His hand hovers near my face, not quite touching. I should never have brought you into this world. I won't let you die because of my selfishness. The offer leaves me breathless. Freedom. Safety. Everything I've been desperate for since I realized what kind of organization I was working for. Everything I should want with every fiber of my being. So why does it feel like he's offering exile instead of escape? And you? I ask, searching his face. What happens to you while I'm starting this new life? Something flickers in his eyes. Regret, resignation, resolve. I do what I was born to do. What I was trained to do. I take control of what my father built, what my uncle maintained. His voice hardens. And then I change it. Legitimize what can be salvaged. Dismantle what can't. They'll kill you. The words escape without permission. Raw with a fear I hadn't allowed myself to acknowledge until this moment. His smile is grim, fatalistic. Many will try. I don't remember moving. Don't remember deciding to bridge the careful distance we've maintained. But suddenly my hands are gripping his shoulders. My face inches from his, anger burning away fear. And that's it? You send me away to safety while you martyr yourself to some grand plan of redemption? You think that's what I want? His expression darkens, hands coming up to grip my wrists, not painfully but firmly. What you want doesn't matter. Not in this. Your safety matters. Your life matters. My choice matters. The words tear from my throat, loud in the quiet cabin. You say I see you when others don't. You say that's why you brought me here. But you don't see me at all if you think I'm going to run away while you face this alone. Something dangerous flashes in his eyes. Something that should terrify me but instead sends heat spiraling through my body. You don't understand what you're saying. What it would mean to stay. The danger. I've been translating your documents for months. I interrupt, voice shaking with emotion. I know exactly what your world involves. What your family does. What you've done. I'm not naive. Then you're a fool. His grip tightens, then releases suddenly, as if he's afraid of hurting me. He stands, putting distance between us. You could have a normal life. Safety. Freedom. Everything I can't give you. I don't want normal. The admission surprises even me. Truth dragged unwillingly into the light. I haven't wanted normal since the first time you looked at me across that conference table. Since the first time I felt the danger and the promise in that look. He goes still, utterly still in the way predators do before they strike. Don't, he says, the word both warning and plea. Don't say things you'll regret when the danger passes, when reality returns. I stand, closing the distance he's created, reckless now with a clarity that feels like falling. The reality is that you've protected me when you could have eliminated me. You've trusted me when trust could get you killed. You've shown me parts of yourself no one else sees. I take a breath, forcing myself to finish. And I've let you. I've stayed. I've chosen this, chosen you, even knowing what it could cost me. His control breaks, shatters like glass under pressure. In 2 strides he's there, hands framing my face, eyes burning into mine. You have no idea what you're asking for, he says, voice rough with emotion. No idea what it means to be with someone like me. Then show me. I challenge, all fear burned away by something hotter, more dangerous. Stop protecting me from the truth and show me exactly what I'm choosing. He kisses me like a drowning man gasping for air, like a dying man seizing one last moment of life. His hands are gentle on my face, but his mouth is desperate, hungry, consuming. I meet him with equal fervor, fingers digging into his shoulders, body arching into his. We collide like forces of nature. Storm meeting mountain, fire meeting forest, unstoppable meeting immovable. His hands slide down my body, memorizing every curve, every hollow. My fingers fumble with shirt buttons, desperate for skin, for connection, for proof that beneath the power and danger is just a man, flesh and blood like any other. When he lifts me, carrying me toward the bedroom, I feel the strength in him, the controlled power. But his eyes, when they meet mine, are vulnerable in a way I've never seen before. Questioning, seeking permission despite the hunger evident in every line of his body. I answer without words, pulling him down for another kiss, surrendering to whatever comes next. To the danger and the desire. To the man beneath the reputation. To the uncertain future we might build together from the ashes of his family's empire. Morning finds us tangled together, his arm heavy across my waist, his breathing deep and even against my neck. For the first time since I met him, he looks peaceful, the perpetual tension eased from his face in sleep. I trace the lines of him with careful fingers, the slope of his shoulder, the curve of his jaw, the scars I discovered in darkness that tell stories he hasn't shared yet. His eyes open slowly, focusing on me with a clarity that suggests he's been awake longer than he's let on. Watching me watch him. His thumb traces my lower lip, a gesture both tender and possessive. "No regrets?" he asks, voice rough with sleep and what passed between us in the night. I shake my head, curling closer into his warmth. "None." "You?" The smile that breaks across his face is like sunrise after endless night, transforming his features from handsome to breathtaking. "Only that I waited so long to bring you here." He sobers, thumb now tracing my cheekbone. "It won't be easy what comes next. My world isn't kind to weakness, to vulnerability. And whatever is between us, they will see as both. Then we don't give them the chance." I say, an idea that has been forming in my subconscious finally taking shape. "We strike first. Together." He raises an eyebrow, that ghost of a smile returning. "Together? And what exactly does the translator propose to contribute to a war between criminal factions?" The old me would have flinched at his tone, would have backed down in the face of his experience, his expertise in violence. But I'm not the same woman who received that envelope what feels like a lifetime ago. This cabin, this man, have changed me irrevocably. Information, I say with quiet confidence. Documentation, proof of who can be trusted and who can't. I've been translating the organization's documents for months, cross-referencing, connecting dots you're too close to see clearly. I know who's been skimming profits, who's been making side deals with rivals, who's been lying to your face while plotting behind your back. His expression shifts from skepticism to interest to something like admiration. "You've been investigating my own organization? Without authorization, without protection." I lift my chin, refusing to be intimidated. I wanted to understand what I'd stumbled into, what kind of man I was working for, what kind of world I'd entered. He laughs then, a genuine sound that transforms his face, makes him look his age rather than aged by responsibility and violence. "You're either the bravest woman I've ever met or the most foolish." His fingers tangle in my hair, drawing me closer. "Perhaps both. Does it matter which if I'm right? If I can help you take control without bloodshed, without civil war within your ranks." His expression sobers, thumb tracing the line of my jaw. "It matters to me. Your safety matters to me. More than power, more than legacy, more than anything my father built or my uncle preserved." The confession steals my breath, more intimate than anything that passed between us in the darkness. This is the true risk for him, not physical danger, which he's lived with all his life, but emotional vulnerability. The admission that there's something he values above the empire he's poised to inherit. "Then let me help you secure both," I say, covering his hand with mine. "Let me give you the information you need to take control cleanly, decisively. And then," I hesitate, the future beyond that moment still hazy, uncertain. And then we decide what kind of legacy to build. He finishes, eyes never leaving mine. What kind of life we want. Together. Together. The word hangs between us, heavy with promise and possibility. Not a guarantee. Nothing in his world comes with guarantees. But a commitment. A beginning rather than an ending. I seal it with a kiss, soft and sure, my decision made. Whatever comes next, danger, power struggles, the weight of his family's legacy, we'll face it united. The translator and the mafia heir. An unlikely pair forging an uncertain path towards something that might, against all odds, resemble redemption. When we finally leave the cabin 3 days later, driving back towards Seoul and the confrontation that awaits, I'm not the same woman who arrived. The fear is still there. I'm not foolish enough to think otherwise, but it's tempered now by resolve, by clarity, by the certainty that whatever happens, I've made my choice with eyes wide open. Jae-hoon drives with one hand on the wheel, the other resting on my knee, a casual intimacy that would have been unthinkable a week ago. His phone rings constantly, lieutenants seeking direction, allies confirming support, enemies probing for weakness. But his attention always returns to me, his anchor in the storm that's about to break. The compound appears on the horizon, unchanged yet somehow different through my new perspective. Not a prison now, but a fortress. Not my ending, but our beginning. The guards at the gate snap to attention when they recognize his car, faces carefully neutral despite the gossip that must be rampant after our disappearance. In the courtyard, his inner circle waits, the men from dinner, the lawyer, the accountant, the security chief, the cousin. Their expressions range from relief to suspicion to open hostility when they see me emerge from the passenger seat. Jae-hoon's hand finds the small of my back, a public declaration more significant than words could ever be. "Welcome home," his grandmother says from the entrance, her ancient eyes missing nothing, her smile knowing as she takes in our changed dynamic. "I told them you would return stronger, united, ready for whatever comes next. The Korean Mafia boss invited me home for Christmas. I didn't expect to find my future, my strength, my purpose in the dangerous gravity of his world. I didn't expect to choose this path with clear eyes and steady heart. I didn't expect to find, in the midst of danger and power and centuries of tradition, something that feels remarkably like home. But sometimes the most unexpected gifts are the ones we never knew to ask for. Sometimes the most dangerous invitation leads to the most important choice. Sometimes falling is the only way to learn you can fly. If this story made your heart race, comment where you're watching from. Would you risk everything for someone who changed your world? Subscribe now for more unforgettable tales where passion, power, and unexpected romance collide in ways you never saw coming.